Welcome back to the ICF Mountain House build here at Guildbrook Farm in sunny Appalachia, North Carolina, where today it's sunny but freezing. A couple of days ago was New Year's Day and it was 72 degrees. It was amazing. I've never seen weather like that here. Last night it snowed, schools were closed, frozen. It's probably 34 today, but it's pretty much melted off. A bit windy, but I'm not sure how much we're going to get done. But I wanted to show you what we did get done before the weather turned, and that is some of this adjustable stair rail. In the last video, we were able to get the 8-inch aluminum column wraps finished, and then before the weather turned, I was able to get some of the stair rail put on. Today's episode, once again, is sponsored by AFCO Industries. They manufacture all of this railing, column wraps, and all that stuff, and they were generous enough to help us out with this project. So we're going to show you this product and the level rail product in probably this video. So this is their Series 100 adjustable rail. It has a breadloaf handrail, and it racks so that you can adjust it to any stair angle, well, 0 level up to, I think, 38 degrees. But that way you don't have to build your stairs to match a railing angle. You can just build your stairs and then match your railing to your stairs, and this worked pretty well. This is the post we're going to use. This is a 4-inch post kit. So you open it up on the end that says open this end, and you'll get a base and a cap, which is on. This here is just a 4-inch square tube aluminum. Got 4 3/8-inch holes on the bottom, so you can bolt this thing to whatever your substrate is. If you're on a pressure treated deck or a concrete or whatever. If you're on pressure treated, you'll want to use the pad that they give you between the aluminum and your deck boards. Protect the aluminum from the pressure treated chemicals and vice versa. But in our application, we don't need to do that because we're going straight into the concrete. Post. They don't give you fasteners because they don't know if you're putting it in concrete or a deck or whatever. So you got to pick the right fastener for your application. If you're putting this on a deck, you want to be sure that you're going down into a joist, structural member, not just a deck board. So typically if you're framing a deck and you're going to use this, you put the blocking in while you're framing. Otherwise, you got to get up under the deck to make sure you have enough meat to dig into. Our case, we have 7-inch slabs, so I'm going to use 1/4 inch by 2 3/4 inch tap cons. All right. I'm just using that to make a mark. All right, our holes are drilled for the top and bottom hinge assemblies. Top assembly looks like the bread loaf for the rail. Bottom is just a square. So take the bit they give you, which is a 3.5-inch Torx bit, and the number 10 self-tapping screws, and put these in. All right, all of the hardware, the hinge brackets, are on all of the posts. I'm going to double check the spacing and location of the posts. That's pretty cool. That's going to lay just like that. AFCO is a 75-year-old, 100% employee-owned American manufacturer in Louisiana. They are the only domestic column and railing manufacturer that extrudes their own aluminum products. This ensures complete quality control from the very start of the manufacturing process. AFCO aluminum railing is completely made in the USA at the Alexandria, Louisiana plant. All structural components, including the brackets, are made of extruded aluminum for strength and aesthetics. Everything is finished with an AMAA 2604 powder coat paint, offered in 7 different finishes. Well, gotta be honest, that was a little bit of a nightmare, trying to get these posts shimmed up to be plumb, just because they're sitting on stone, which are completely irregularly shaped. But we got her. And now I can move on finally to cutting the rail and getting that installed. All right, next we have to do this bottom rail measurement, and you have to align these hinge brackets, pivot thingies, to be parallel with each other, and then make that measurement 46 1/4. All right, this is a typical section of the Series 100 adjustable stair rail. We've got a 4-inch post, which works with all of their stuff. Comes with a cap, It comes with a base, and then same post, same post. And these only come in 6-foot sections, so I had to put a mid post. All the level rail comes in like 8 and 10-foot sections. So basically, you line up your bottom rail and your top rail, make the cut. You attach your brackets here, which are pivoting hinges, and then you put the rail in that bracket, and then this is a sleeve that covers that. Everything gets screwed together, and then you put your caps on, and you're good to go. It looks amazing. The color is great. It matches. It's super strong, super sturdy. Now this is a bottom rail section for the level rail, which goes around the rest of the perimeter of the deck. This is an 8-foot section, and I just have it laid here. I'm trying to mock up. It's long enough. I'm gonna have to cut it, obviously, a few inches. So I'm just trying to mock up kind of what the bottom rail looks like. I have it sitting on a couple 2x4s because we need it to be 4 inches off the ground, no more than 4 inches. And then your balusters are spaced 4 inches, so it's all pre-done and it's code. So the top rail of this is the Series 200 we're going to use, which is a flat top rail, as opposed to the Series 100, which is a breadloaf top. So that's this. As you can see, it's got a flat top. That's so you can put a composite deck board or something like that on top and have a nice fat drink rail on the top of your railing. And here's some of the balusters. These are just 3/4 inch round painted textured bronze to match everything else. Aluminum balusters. I've got my next post installed, and so now we got to measure for our next rail. So first we measure for the top rail, and we have to subtract about 3/4 of an inch from that. So we'll call that 71.5. The reason we have to subtract 3/4 is for the top bracket. It's different than the bottom bracket. It's got about 1/4 of an inch that sticks out for the screws to go into. And then you want about 1/8 on each side to give you a little bit of playroom. The bottom bracket is different in that it allows the rail to go straight up and butt up against the surface, so you don't have to factor that in. 71.5, 71 even. That makes sense. Here I have an 8-foot section of level rail. Comes with a piece of square stock like this that you'll use to cut little squash blocks, mid-rail supports that go on the bottom. If it's about 72 inches or more, you'll want 2 blocks. If it's less than that, you only need 1, like in the center. Just helps support the bottom rail. The brackets for the top and bottom, the screws, some adhesive, and a square drive bit. Every one of these has a square drive bit, so I'm going to have like 20 square drive bits. Pretty cool. So these are 96 inches. We need 71 inches. So we have to remove 25 inches of it. So we have to divide that by 2 and remove 12.5 inches from each side. I made this little metal scribe in metal shop in 7th grade. That was a very, very long time ago. Next, we have to put a mounting thingy, like one of these, on the bottom for that support block. And I'm just putting it right here in the center. Put the balusters onto the top rail first, then add the bottom rail. So these are those bottom brackets. I'm going to slide these onto the bottom rail. Trim caps, these are little C-channel trim caps. I'm going to slide these onto the top rail. You put your bracket on. Make sure the open ends where the screws go in go to the inside facing the rail. That way you can come in to the post. These are just trim pieces. And that's what they look like when they're on. Just kind of closes that gap up between the railing and the post. Now I'm using 42-inch tall rail around the entire perimeter. I think I could get away with 36 for code in this state, but I wanted to do 42 just because it's so high. The other reason is when you're sitting in a chair, you can see through, and that rail isn't at your eye line. Like if you're chilling out on a zero gravity chair, a 36-inch rail is just too short, gets in the way. Up from the floor, and I'm coming up 40 1/4 because if I do decide to do a deck board later, it'll make it exactly 42. Kind of right there. Make a level line. This is the little jig that you can get from AFCO. This is the AFCO tool, they call it. It's got all kinds of different holes, patterns for different rail configurations when you drill your posts for the bracketry. That little cutout goes around the bottom when you're lining up your bottom bracket. And these holes right here are what we want for our top bracket. And this works with a 3-inch post and a 4-inch post. If it's a 3-inch post, you put this side up against it. If it's a 4-inch post, you flip it over and do that side. So I can take this tool, line that right up on my marks that my line that I just made, and pre-drill my holes. And there you go. Don't need my line anymore. Now, if you watched the video I made when I put these aluminum column wraps on, I put blocking in here for attaching this railing to. So I'm not going to be able to use their little 1.5-inch sheet metal screws they provided because I got quite a bit of space between this metal through the blocking and into the actual post. So I'm going to go ahead and use like 3-inch construction screws on this top saddle bracket like that. And that will be a really good connection. I don't want to over tighten them because it'll probably suck the metal, the column into the post a little too far. But I do want it to be tight. Let's erase our little pencil mark. All right, now we're ready to set the rail. So next, I have to temporarily set this rail so we can measure for our squash block or our support block on the bottom. From between the floor and the bottom of the rail, it's about 1 5/8 inches, so that's how long our little block needs to be. Here's our little block. And all right, last thing I'm going to do is plumb this and move the bracket to the post, scribe a line so I know where this needs to go. And then I'll drill and fasten this to the post with these construction screws again, because this is has blocking in it. This little right angle doodad for your drill is a must. Post cap. Clean. Well, I just realized that I didn't have a lot of footage showing the actual installation of this adjustable stair rail. I got to the part where I got these cut, but didn't show the pickets or attaching it. But you saw me do the level rail. You put the pickets on the same way. You just attach them onto the little connectors. You set the rail the same way you set a level rail once you have your brackets installed. So it's not all that difficult. The most difficult part is actually getting your angle right and getting your spacing right. So, you know, that's going to be unique to each application. But the other thing I didn't show really was installing a post. So I'm going to do that real quick right now. And then that should cover all the basics of setting all this stuff up. Stair rail, then level rail, mid post. And now I'm going to put another mid post in between those two columns. It's pretty simple, but I'll show you how I do it, just so you know. I'm probably going to end up using two 8-foot sections here and cut them to fit between the mid post and the column. That is 151, 6 foot 3.5. That'll be my center line. Post base is 5.5. So from my center line, I'll come out 2 3/4, which is half of that. And that's kind of the left and right of my post base. So now I have to figure out how far in or out the post needs to be, and that's where my string line comes in. Over here, I'm going to measure the distance from the string to the post, and that is 3/8 of an inch. And that helps me not have to worry about measuring the post base to the edge of the porch and all that, because the porch does have a little bit of out of squareness from one end to the other. It's like an inch wider, and you want your rail to be straight. So now that I've got my measurements on the ground, just kind of temporarily set this where it goes there and bring it back 3/8 from the string line. The other thing is I'm pushing all of this out towards the front of the columns, so the rail is not centered on these columns. It is centered on the posts. But I'm doing that because I have so much overhang out here. I want as much porch use as I can get. So it might look a little weird, but as long as it's all the same and consistent, it kind of makes up for it. 1, 2, 3/8, 2, 3/8. All right, that's about perfect. So I'm just going to trace my corners here so I know exactly where to set this post. Now I'm going to take my Sharpie and mark where to drill the holes. Make sure you center these marks in the hole, because concrete holes are a bit unforgiving. Once you drill them, they're drilled. One other thing, when I'm plumbing a post up and down, these are aluminum, so my magnetic level does not stick. So we use a post level. And this gets it level and plumb in all directions. Has to come in a little bit, and the way we do that is we shim the base using that pad that they send you to separate the post from like pressure treated. I just cut little pieces of plastic and shim it up. First, I got to drill these holes. Got my little air tank to blow out my holes. All right, now we're doing our holes with a hammer drill and a masonry bit. I have found that doing 3 passes like that is way more effective because you're able to clean all the gunk out. If you don't do that, then when you go to put your Tapcon in, it binds up and you can't get the whole way down in. Start out slow so you don't have the bit walk away from you. Now we have holes. Next thing I like to do is put a big gob of Lexel down into the hole. That way if water gets down in there, well, keeps water from getting down in there, so it doesn't freeze and crack your concrete. And then I seal it again once the post is installed. Set the post and get ready to shim. These are the plastic spacers I mentioned that they give you, and I just use them for shimming material. Just cut I'd say those are about a 1/16 thick. And they work perfect for shims. They're weatherproof. And once you get this cranked down with the tap cons, it won't go anywhere. This is where you want to take your time and get this right. Oh, that looks good. Might have gotten lucky. Plumb that way, plumb that way. That was the quickest one so far. This is another instance where this right angle drill attachment comes in handy, so you can get right up to this post and keep the tap con straight up and down. Now I just start them with the impact and then finish them with a ratchet. Otherwise you can possibly torque these things and snap them right off. Ask me how I know. Okay, mid posts are in. I apologize if this was a little bit of a disjointed video. I was trying to shoot this over a bunch of different days and the weather was not cooperating. But, you know, it's starting to rain here. It's supposed to get another 2 inches of snow tonight. But I wanted to show how to do aluminum rail on concrete and stone if you have an application like that. It's usually a commercial type job for those types of things. I'm really happy with this aluminum rail, this AFCO product. It's just really strong and it looks good and it's easy to put together relatively once you get the hang of it. I've got enough done now that I can finish these level rails and move to the front porch, and I'll probably do that next week. We're supposed to get 3 or 4 nice days, so it looks like I just beat the weather. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, like, maybe subscribe. See you in the next video. Appreciate you watching. Take it easy.